Unbelievable twist, single dad CEO discovers love after mysterious replacement at wedding booth. Jack stared at the rows of wedding displays, his heart sinking deeper with each laugh and flourish of tool around him. As the CEO of a tech startup, the whirlwind of his workweek paled in comparison to the chaos of navigating this sea of love, one he felt utterly disconnected from. 3 years had passed since his wife's death, and each day spent in the world of entrepreneurship was like walking on a tightrope. Balancing the weight of his responsibilities with the joyful innocence of his 10-year-old daughter, Emma, was a constant struggle. She twirled in a hypothetical wedding dress, losing herself in dreams he feared would pull her too close to the edge of heartbreak. "What color do you think I should use, Dad?" Emma's voice broke through his thoughts, brightening the gloom that surrounded him. He felt the tug of her imagination, so vivid and hopeful, juxtaposed against his own reservations. "Maybe blue?" he suggested, his voice weak, lacking the enthusiasm her dreams deserved. Love and aspirations filled the air around him, while Jack battled with ghosts that lurked in the recesses of his mind. He wished he could dive headfirst into those dreams, but an all-consuming fog of guilt gripped him, stifling any urge to explore. Before he could spiral into darker thoughts, Lily appeared, a whirlwind wrapped in laughter and charisma. She approached him, her smile radiant and assured. "Hey there. You look like you could use a break." Surprised by her directness, Jack hesitated, caught off guard but intrigued. Her energy was almost contagious, and he watched as she effortlessly drew Emma into conversation, igniting the little girl's laughter. Jack felt the warmth of unexpected hope flickering like a candle, yet shadows from his past loomed large, questioning whether he had the courage to step out of his fortified confines. That he noticed Emma's eyes sparkling as Lily investigated the extravagant setups with her. Jack's heart twisted. Could he allow himself to be drawn into a budding relationship when his past clung to him like a shroud? The laughter of couples all around him seemed to heighten his isolation. Was it unfair to risk his heart again, knowing the toll it could take on Emma? Doubts clouded his mind. Should he remain loyal to his wife's memory, or were the shackles of sorrow blinding him from the opportunity for joy? Before he had the chance to resolve his thoughts, he noticed something in Lily's demeanor, an underlying pressure masked by her vibrant spirit. Jack's heart raced as he tried to grasp the breadth of her connection to the wedding industry, the very realm he had to drag himself into for this expo. Was it wrong to feel drawn to her, knowing that behind the smiles lay her own hidden struggles? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's eyes brimmed with uncertainty as he watched Emma and Lily bond. A sudden realization hit him like a chilling gust. A potential relationship could dredge up painful memories, reopening old scars. The laughter they shared turned into a haunting reminder of what he lost. Can there be room for love again, or would it mean betraying memories filled with joy and heartache? The frayed edges of Jack's heart pulled tight, the internal conflict swirling like a storm. Should he reach out, willing to risk the exposure of vulnerability? Or shelter both himself and Emma from what might become a whirlwind of emotions? The air grew thick with urgency, as Jack confronted the possibility of losing himself while searching for Emma's happiness. The decision loomed over him like a storm cloud ready to burst, leaving him teetering on the edge of either new beginnings or an endless cycle of grief. The tension wrapped around him, and with every passing moment, he could feel the melancholy of his past colliding with the vibrant present. He had to decide before the storm within him erupted. Would he leap into the unknown, inviting love back into his life, or retreat to the safety of familiar grief, leaving lost chances in the wake of his decision? The booth hummed with activity, vibrant displays vying for attention, but all Jack could feel was the weight of bewildering silence in his own chest. Beneath the laughter and the sporadic music, a profound question rattled in his mind: what would it take to let himself feel again? Emma's exuberance flowed through the space, igniting pockets of joy he hadn't felt in years, yet the steam of anxiety curled at the edges of his heart. Stepping forward while tethered to memories seemed an insurmountable challenge that he caught snippets of Emma's laughter as she and Lily poked fun at one another, a synergy forming that he had once adored in his late wife. The hot stabs of jealousy and grief knotted in his stomach. "You're not ready for this," he chided himself, potently aware that stepping into this realm might mean forcing both himself and Emma to confront ghosts they hadn't yet settled with. Yet each infectious burst of laughter from Emma felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Jack's mind shifted gears. Perhaps the pain of moving forward wasn't the only path. What if rediscovering joy could gradually transform the landscape of sorrow into something more bearable? As if reading his thoughts, Lily's gaze met his across the booth, and a gentle smile broke across her features. It felt softer than he remembered as their eyes connected, a spark igniting in her expression that startled him. She walked over, effortlessly entering the moment. "We should take a photo. Memories, right?" She held up her phone, her enthusiasm propelling him towards the momentous decision hovering at the edge of his consciousness. Jack hesitated, the nostalgic tug of a family portrait with his late wife haunting him. Yet another voice, perhaps Emma's spirit, broke through his trepidation. "Come on, Dad. It'll be fun," she urged, pulling him into the fold. Her innocent optimism carved a small opening in Jack's tightly sealed heart. Could he step outside the fortified walls he had built? With a resigned resolve, Jack positioned himself beside Emma and Lily, hammering down the anxieties knotting his insides. He took a steadying breath and obliged, forcing a smile that felt foreign yet liberating on his lips. Snap! The flash captured that fleeting moment of joy, one that felt punctuated by the hopes of a father wanting nothing more than to see his daughter flourish. In that instant, a feathery tether began to weave new connections, delicate yet significantly poignant. Maybe, despite his fears, this was a step towards something more than just survival. Jack was beginning to consider the life beyond the pain, a life where Emma could have a happy father. As they stepped away from the booth, Lily leaned toward Jack, her eyes shimmering with earnest curiosity. "Do you want to explore more together?" she asked, pulse quickening in recognition of an unspoken ambition. Jack's breath hitched. The enticing suggestion hung heavy in the air, a bold challenge igniting an inexplicable fire within him. Emma nudged him. "Can we, Dad?" In that moment, standing between two vibrant souls, Jack felt the day's weightiness shift. He realized he stood at a crossroads where he could decide to embrace the unknown. Could this soiree of colors and laughter be the catalyst he desperately needed? But lurking just beneath the surface of his hopeful aspirations lay the unignorable shadows of doubt. Was diving into new relationships a betrayal, or merely a sign of growth? Tension danced within as he prepared to speak, grappling with emerging feelings that were begging to rise to the surface, and he knew he had to confront the darkness pulling at his heels. "Let us go," he finally murmured, the words a whisper of commitment mingled with uncertainty. And just as the first step over that invisible threshold began to solidify, the unexpected arrival of a familiar face from his past loomed at the edge of the market, an unwelcome tumult that could derail everything he had just begun giving thought to. The moment of truth had arrived, and Jack's heart pounded as he recognized the figure. Would this confrontation unravel the progress he had started to build, or would it be a catalyst for a greater understanding of himself and his past? Jack's gaze locked onto the familiar figure just a few feet away, the memories flooding back with a dizzying velocity. Noah. His old colleague, back from a time when work had consumed every waking moment, leaving little space for emotions beyond stress and coffee runs. Emotions Jack had long buried were clawing at him, demanding recognition. How could someone he once navigated office corridors with now feel like an unwelcome shadow on this tentative journey toward healing? Noah's eyes widened in recognition, a flicker of surprise quickly replaced by a smirk that felt wholly inappropriate against the vibrant backdrop of Jack's current breakthrough. Jack grappled with a swell of indignation. Did Noah even know what Jack had been through? The anxiety bubbled in his chest, demanding he retreat back into the cloak of sorrow he'd worn for so long. "Jack. Long time, no see. Noah approached with too much bravado, hands jammed casually in his pockets, as if they were merely rekindling a friendly bond over mundane office gossip. What had he expected? Jack's mind roiled. This was not how he had envisioned this day. Yeah, it's been a while, Jack replied, his voice strained. Just as he thought the conversation couldn't get more complicated, Noah's gaze flicked toward Emma and Lily, their faces glowing with curiosity, unaware of the tension steeping in the air. Nice to meet you, ladies, Noah said, a charming smile plastered as he tried to engage them. Jack experienced an agonizing twist in his gut, realizing how easy it was for Noah to slip back into congeniality. Was he here to upend whatever Jack was trying to ignite with Emma and Lily? Dad, can we go? Emma's voice, still buoyant, cut through the weight of the moment, but her eyes darted between the two men, searching for answers she couldn't articulate. Actually, I was just telling Jack about a new project we're launching. Should catch his interest, Noah inserted, clearly enjoying Jack's discomfort. Jack felt trapped between nostalgia and a new life, irreconcilable aspects that threatened his fragile desire to move forward. Is that so? Jack's response was stoic, masking the torrent within. He knew he had worked hard to distance himself from the remnants of that life, but here stood Noah, acting as if nothing had ever changed. Well, I was just heading to get some coffee. You should join us, Jack. Noah leaned forward, his enthusiasm palpable, but Jack could see past the simplified invitation to the undercurrent of competition. Jack's heart raced. Should he accept the invitation? A chance to discuss work could lead him back into the machinations of corporate life. Yet, turning away could solidify his decision to move forward, not backward. Right now. Jack hesitated, glancing at Emma and Lily. Their subdued expressions hinted at their uncertainty, the joy of the day tangling with the anxiety of seeing someone from the past that Jack had nearly forgotten. With a surge of determination, Jack shook his head slowly. I think we're going to explore a little more. The words felt like an anchor, pulling him back toward the path he yearned for, away from the surging undertow of his past life. Suit yourself. Just thought it might spark some old inspiration, Noah retorted, masking his disappointment with a forced grin, but the words lingered, gnawing at Jack's resolve. Old inspiration. Did he even want that life again? As they walked away, the tension from the encounter settled heavily on Jack's shoulders. Emma's delicate hand slipped into his, a reminder of where his focus should lie. His heart flickered to life, realizing that it was not about rejecting his past completely, but about realigning his future with the connections he wanted to nurture. Where to now? Lily asked, her excitement infectious, urging Jack away from the looming shadows. Let us find something fun, ice cream, maybe. He suggested, eyes lighting up as he conjured a vision of shared laughter and joy. Just as they began to move forward, another plummet of anxiety struck. Would Noah try to reach out again? Could their burgeoning happiness survive the intrusion of past disappointments? Jack felt the tension tighten within him as they stepped deeper into the throng. But as he pulled Emma and Lily closer, the sensation of something beginning to blossom within him grew stronger. He didn't have to face the past alone anymore, he had people beside him willing to carve new paths. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that rolled in like storm clouds on the horizon, threatening to overshadow this harvest of hope. With the world swirling again around him, Jack had to remind himself that while the shadows were looming, so too were the lights guiding him toward what he truly desired. What final confrontation with the past lay ahead? Would the return of Noah bring clarity or chaos to this fragile moment of reconnection? Each step away from Noah felt like a step further into uncharted terrain. Jack's heart raced with conflicting emotions as he focused on Emma and Lily. They brightened his world in ways he had not thought possible. The lingering presence of his old colleague nagged at him, yet he clung to the moment as his daughter's laughter broke through the haze. Look, Dad. There. Lily pointed toward an ice cream stand adorned with colorful banners. The enthusiasm in her voice broke Jack's reverie. He forced a smile, feeling it stretch across his face despite the storm brewing inside. "Alright, ice cream it is," he replied, allowing the girls to lead the way. As they approached the stand, he felt the mixture of flavors and toppings spilling over into a space that had once felt so empty. "Can I get sprinkles?" Emma asked, her voice melodic, pulling him further into the present. "Anything you want, kiddo," Jack said, still trying to shake the weight of his past encounter with Noah. Watching his daughters revel in the simple joy of choosing ice cream toppings stirred a sense of pride within him. Jack leaned against the stand, waiting for their orders to be filled, his mind wandering back to Noah. What did he want? The question gnawed at him. Was it merely a hello from an old acquaintance, or was he eager to draw Jack back into the labyrinth of corporate ambition? An echo of Noah's earlier words hung in the air, old inspiration. How could he inspire anything from the person Jack had vowed to leave behind? He was becoming increasingly aware that the past might not be as easy to strip away as he had hoped. "Dad?" Lily's voice called him back to reality as their ice cream cones were handed over. He watched as their faces lit up, transforming his dark thoughts into fleeting wisps of anxiety. "Let us sit over there." Emma pointed toward a nearby bench. As they settled down, Jack felt the warm sun on his face, mingling with the cold sensation from the ice cream. It grounded him, tethering him to this new reality, one where he could be both a father and a person trying to heal. "You know," Lily said, licking her cone thoughtfully, "if you get a job again, can I come to the office with you?" Caught off guard, Jack paused. The idea stirred a conflict within him. A part of him craved ambition, that drive he had pushed away in pursuit of a more meaningful existence. "Maybe. But I want to make sure you two are okay with it first. I like how we spend our time together now." He could see the flicker of uncertainty in their eyes, but it was quickly eclipsed by delight as they enjoyed their sweet treats. For now, the solution to his turmoil rested in making this moment count, not in wondering whether Noah's presence would disrupt what he had begun to cultivate. Yet, as they lingered over the melted edges of their ice cream, Jack sensed that the gravitational pull of the corporate world was not so easily dismissed. What should be a joyful day was still shadowed by the unresolved aspects of his past. Anxiety surged within him once more. Would Noah resurface again? Each crunching sound of cones contrasted sharply with the unsettling awareness that his past was not finished with him yet. "Can we go to the park next?" Emma proposed, her energy suffusing his heart with warmth. He nodded, two parts of him wrestling for control, one that wanted to venture into the future and the other that feared re-engaging with the past. Walking toward the park, he felt propelled by unresolved emotions. What did Noah's reappearance signify? Would it remind him of unfulfilled dreams or bring up the ambition he thought he had left behind? Jack had made strides, but the road ahead was full of both potential pleasure and painful reminders. As they crossed the street, Jack's heart pounded with uncertainty. It was time to confront both his real aspirations and the remnants of his past. Something deep inside him questioned, was it right to turn his back on the corporate world entirely, just to protect himself? The unsettling reality began to take shape in his mind, the need to understand his true feelings about work, family, and the shadow Noah cast over his journey. Decisions loomed ahead. What transformation awaited him beyond this park, and would it bring clarity or perhaps chaos into his burgeoning life? The park unfolded before them, alive with laughter, the rustling of tree leaves, and the distant thump of a soccer ball. Jack watched Emma and Lily race towards the playground, their joyful shrieks puncturing the quietude that had begun to settle in his chest. The contrast between their carefree play and his own turbulent thoughts magnified his internal conflict, driving him deeper into a reflection that grew harder to escape. Jack took a moment on the park bench, watching the dynamic interplay of children and their parents. He could see mothers boosting toddlers towards swing sets and fathers hovering protectively as kids took tentative steps on the climbing frame. Each scene was a reminder of the life he wanted for his daughters, yet it gnawed at him. Was he giving them the father they needed, or was he a spectator in their growing years caught in a web of his own doubt? As he leaned back, the cool metal of the bench pressing against him, a perception flickered to life. The conversations he had once had in boardrooms echoed in his mind. They had always revolved around ambitious plans, projections, and achievements. Yet now, he found himself wrestling with a more significant question: what truly defined success? Was it a corner office or heartfelt moments lost in laughter with his daughters? The sound of a soccer ball rolling away stirred him from his musings. He caught a glimpse of a group of kids chasing it, their faces lit with pure determination. Those moments of fearless pursuit stood in stark contrast to Jack's own hesitations. He felt a longing stir inside, an urge to break free from the chains of his apprehensions and rediscover a part of himself that had once thrived in the bustling chaos of corporate success that he watched as Emma and Lily teamed up to climb a jungle gym, their exuberance a stark reminder of the potential heights they could reach. A surge of inspiration washed over him. Perhaps he didn't need to abandon one world for the other. Instead, could he merge the lessons learned from both? Could he transform his passion for fatherhood into something that also drove his professional aspirations right into the heart of the corporate environment he had left behind? With a newfound resolve, he grabbed his phone from his pocket and opened his notes app. Somewhere deep down was the flicker of a dream he had shelved away, and he began jotting down ideas. A new venture. A consultancy that focused on balancing family with ambition. The sharper edges of ambition began to dull as he incorporated the essence of family. Jack felt a tremor of excitement pulse through him, but it fractured under the weight of uncertainty. Was he romanticizing the past? The corporates he had abandoned? Besides, Noah's words echoed back to him old inspiration. Was he just going to create a facade of a career, wrapping it in the silver lining of his role as a father? Dad! Lily's shout jolted him again. She had scaled the jungle gym's summit and was waving triumphantly, a hazy summer sky framing her figure. Come see. Jack stood up, the notes dancing in his mind like a chaotic melody, and hurried over. Watching his daughters revel in accomplishment reignited his fire. He was not just their father, he was their role model. If he could encompass the strength of ambition and the warmth of connection, maybe just maybe he could carve out a new role for himself that felt congruent with who he was becoming. But as he watched them, an undeniable question teased at his mind, marking an unavoidable hurdle he had yet to confront. Could he face Noah again and articulate this evolving vision of himself? He felt the tension build, realizing that possibly the most significant battle lay not within himself but outside of it as well. With courage kindled in his heart, Jack knew the time had come to confront not just his past but also the shadow of a future he could either embrace or walk away from. Would he forge ahead or allow his old ambitions to cloud the promise of a new beginning? His heart raced, the moment of truth loomed closer. The morning sun spilled through the kitchen window, illuminating the chaos of breakfast preparations. Jack moved methodically, pouring cereal while mentally sketching the framework of his consultancy idea. His excitement weaved through his thoughts like the steam rising from the coffee pot. There was a palpable shift within him, a flicker of hope juxtaposed against the lingering doubt. His daughters, animated and giggly, interrupted his train of thought, chattering about their plans for the day. Their innocence was a stark reminder of what he hoped to shape, a life that blended personal and professional fulfillment seamlessly. He had once been adept at crafting deals, but now, he aimed to construct a new form of success, one that married ambition with a commitment to family. Amidst the joyful chaos, a knot of anxiety remained tethered to his resolve. Could he articulate his vision clearly to Noah, a man whose world still revolved around the grind of corporate ambition? Their last conversation echoed in his mind, their disagreement over what constituted genuine success showcasing the gulf between their aspirations. As much as Jack wished to harmonize his newfound goals with his former life, he realized he needed more than a half-formed plan. He needed conviction. That he decided to set aside the notes on his phone. Instead, he picked up a clean sheet of paper and began drafting a structured outline of his consultancy vision. It would focus on helping others find the balance he sought, a blend of heart and hard work, personal time and professional growth. With each word he wrote, he translated small, uncertain thoughts into a robust blueprint. However, descending into practical details confronted him with unwelcome reflections. He hadn't navigated the corporate sea for years. Could he truly reclaim that space? Would those still entrenched in corporate culture embrace a father with a fresh perspective? Doubt crept back in like a fog. He needed clarity, and more importantly, actionable steps beyond a vision. He required a plan. Sifting through his expansive Rolodex of contacts, Jack pondered the connections he had nurtured. While he could easily reach out to his former colleagues, the idea of exposing his vulnerabilities made his heart race. The impulse to shield his new ambitions from them loomed over him. He took a moment to breathe. "You're a father now," he reminded himself. "Your daughters deserve to see you chase your dreams." That thought was his anchor amid the tempest of self-doubt. Determined, he reached for the phone and dialed Noah's number, the familiar tension surging as it rang. With each beep, he rehearsed his approach, imagining the way he would outline his consultancy idea, emphasizing how it could challenge traditional corporate culture. When there was finally silence before Noah answered, Jack felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through him. "Jack. Long time, no chat. How's life treating you?" Noah's upbeat tone contrasted sharply with Jack's thrumming heart. Jack faltered for a brief moment before responding. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something big. I'm considering a consultancy focusing on balancing family life and ambition. I think it could reshape how we view success in the corporate world." A pause lingered on the line, thickening the air. Jack held his breath, anticipating Noah's reaction. Would he scoff, remind him of the perils of sentimentality in business, or could he offer genuine support? "Interesting concept," Noah finally replied, though it lacked excitement. "But do people really care about that?" Jack's stomach twisted at the hint of skepticism laced into Noah's question. Would he just be another father caught in the weave of corporate skepticism and dismissed as outdated? The conversation quickly shifted, discussing potential jobs and shared connections, but Jack felt the urgency clawing at him. He needed to persuade Noah, to ignite a belief in his vision and possibly garner allies in his newly defined quest. As they wrapped up, Jack felt a jolt of frustration mingled with determination. He would have to work harder to change not just Noah's perception, but that of the entire corporate architecture he once called home. His heart raced not just with uncertainty but also with the fierce need to carve out a space that reflected who he was becoming. As he hung up, a new question took root: could he not only redefine success for himself but potentially for others as well? With a fire in his belly, Jack vowed to confront the challenges ahead, but the lingering doubt of Noah's reaction weighed heavily. What if this was just the first of many hurdles to overcome? That evening, as he watched his daughters giggle over a new board game, he couldn't shake the tension. The battle for a new life had just begun, but would he emerge victorious or falter under the strain of reforging his identity? The following day arrived with a sharp clarity. Jack awoke before dawn, driven by a blend of anxiety and ambition that buzzed like static in the air. As he snuck quietly past his daughters' rooms, the image of their peaceful faces filled him with renewed purpose. He grabbed his notebook, a tool now imbued with potential, and retreated to the living room. He settled into the couch, flicking through the pages filled with his tentative musings. The initial outline he had crafted felt like a skeletal frame of a burgeoning idea waiting to be fleshed out. Each bullet point represented a fragment of the vision, but he needed more details, more strategy. The stark realization smacked him: he needed to understand his audience. His mind spiraled through the possibilities. As a father diving into this consultancy, he would want to cater not just to corporations but to individuals like himself, struggling to balance their work and home lives. Who are they? Where do they congregate? What do they really value? He scribbled furiously, momentarily lost in the rhythm of his pen gliding across the paper. The sunlight soon poured through the window, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's doubts. He had spent years navigating the corporate waters, yet now he found himself wrestling with myriad new questions. If he wanted to contextualize his consultancy successfully, he had to confront more than just external perceptions. He needed to understand the emotional landscape of his potential clients. With purpose solidifying like concrete, Jack jumped up, the enthusiasm now palpable. His mind raced with the sheer scope of inquiries he could explore. Perhaps a series of focus groups, informal meetups where he gathered parents at school drop-off or local cafes. The thought invigorated him. But just as the momentum built, uncertainty slithered back in. Who was he to lead discussions? Who was he to reshape narratives for others? The air seemed to thicken as the familiar self-doubt crept back, pushing against his resolve. Jack paused, breathing deeply, trying to ground himself. He could either cater to those fears or push forward. He recalled a lesson from his corporate days: to scale mountains, sometimes you needed to enlist a guide. He flipped open his contacts, scanning for allies. The thought of reaching out to peers still in the corporate sector was unnerving, but the urge to harness their insights beckoned. Perhaps Noah's skepticism could serve as a catalyst, turning a naysayer into an ally could validate his direction. Heart pounding, Jack selected a name from his contact list, one he recognized as an old colleague who'd recently pivoted into human resources consulting. They had once talked at length about work-life balance, a conversation that had inspired Jack long before his current predicament. His fingers trembled slightly as he typed a message, willing them to steady as he drafted his pitch. "Hi Sarah, it's Jack. I need your insights. I'm developing a consultancy focused on helping parents balance ambition and family life. I'd love to get your thoughts and possibly collaborate." He sent it off, heart racing. What had he just done? There was no turning back now. That moment of vulnerability left him feeling exposed. But simultaneously, it sparked a flicker of something he hadn't felt in a while: hope. After a few minutes that stretched like an hour, his phone buzzed. The message from Sarah eased a thread of tension within him. "I'd love to help, Jack. When do you want to meet?" As he slipped back into the familiar fog of planning, the whirlwind of possibilities opened up in front of him. He could create informal workshops, develop content that resonated with the challenges faced by parents in the corporate grind. He could build a community for voices like his, a blend of realism and aspiration. With a renewed sense of direction, Jack returned to his notebook. A new section emerged, one labeled Emerging Ideas. He realized that this was just one of many small steps he would take, but each one drew him closer to a vision that felt unmistakably within reach. As night settled in, Jack grabbed his daughters for a hug, their laughter echoing through the house as he reveled in the warmth of family life. Yet a deeper thread of tension still lingered. He needed more than insight, he required a strategy to confront the skepticism that loomed from his old life. As thoughts collided in his mind, Jack stood firm, determined. The moment for real action was nearing, but what awaited him in those conversations ahead? Would he have the fortitude to navigate the corporate skepticism, or would he be met with resistance? The weight of the unknown pressed down on him, yet the pull of ambition surged onward. The next day brought with it a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Jack found himself pacing in the living room, rehearsing the conversation he would have with Sarah. The gravity of their upcoming meeting felt significant. He wasn't just seeking advice, eager to extract insights felt like a fragile negotiation with his own vulnerabilities. He glanced around the room, the remnants of his daughter's toys scattered on the floor, a reminder of his life outside corporate walls. More than just a business strategy, he was about to make a commitment to integrating work with life in a way he had only dreamt of doing. The stakes were rising. Arriving at the cafe early, Jack chose a corner table near a window, allowing the morning light to cast his fears in softer hues. He opened his notebook again, flipping through the pages, trying to solidify his thoughts. The moment Sarah arrived, her presence triggered a swirl of memories, the thoughtful discussions they once had about work cultures and prioritizing family. Their connection could be an asset, but he worried that she might still view him as the corporate cog he once was, and not the changemaker he aspired to be. "Jack." She smiled, sliding into the seat across from him. "I'm excited to hear about your consultancy idea. Thanks for meeting me, Sarah. I'm really hoping to reshape what balance means for parents in our industry," he started, his voice steady yet tinged with an uncharacteristic sheepishness. "I guess I'm hoping to create something more than a service. It should feel like a lifeline for others juggling the demands we face." He watched her nod, eyes bright with understanding, and as she began sharing her thoughts, the conversation flowed. Their exchange revealed the nuances of navigating corporate life while firmly planting roots at home. Jack jotted down notes but found himself wrapped in the moment rather than focusing solely on writing. Each insight from Sarah was a thread connecting him closer to his goal, but as they delved deeper, the looming question echoed louder in his mind: would corporations truly embrace the emotional narratives he wanted to introduce? As if sensing his turmoil, Sarah leaned in. "Jack, remember the value you bring is authentic dialogue. Vulnerability and honesty resonate, even in boardrooms." He felt a flicker of clarity. Instead of shying away from his past, maybe there was power in embracing it, turning his corporate experience into a lens through which he could advocate change. It wasn't just for the others, it was also for himself. Jack nodded, a surge of determination filling the gaps where uncertainty had lingered. "Let me ask you something," he ventured, a surge of courage building. "Have you ever felt out of place trying to promote work-life harmony within a culture that barely recognizes it?" Sarah took a moment, and he could see the wheels turning. "Every day. I think we have a long way to go, but it starts with the dialogue. Someone has to suggest this change." Her affirmation struck a chord. He needed to champion this dialogue, using both his corporate acumen and personal experience. There was a collective need, not just among individuals but at the very core of corporate policy. What if he could facilitate that conversation? As they wrapped up, Jack felt surer than ever about his path. But doubt lurked nearby, asking if he was truly ready to take this leap. Their discussion had ignited something deeper, a realization that the fight wasn't solely against skepticism, but also against the remnants of his old identity. If he truly believed in this vision, he would have to take risks that made him uncomfortable. As they stood to leave, Sarah smiled encouragingly. "We all have a role in this, Jack. Don't let the fear silence your voice." Her words echoed in his mind long after he walked into the thrumming energy of the bustling streets beyond the cafe. He knew he had to confront the skepticism head-on, not just from others but from within himself. Days trickled into one another as Jack honed his message. Yet, on the edge of his evolution lay another boundary. One he hadn't anticipated. Those who had once been his allies at the corporate level, now began to raise doubts. A new resistance brewed, threatening to drown out his emerging voice. The time had come to face those ghosts, individuals from his former life who had long watched him as another cog in the corporate machine. Could he transform the doubts of those who had doubted him before into allies? Would they rally behind a vision that felt so far removed from the world they had built together? He felt the anxiety rising in his chest. Nothing was guaranteed, but the fire inside him sparked a conviction. It was time to reintroduce himself, not as just Jack from marketing, but as a fatherly advocate, a consultant demanding change. Jack spent the following week evading his old colleagues. Each email notification felt like a weight bearing down on him. Wasn't he embracing change? Yet he found himself slipping back into familiar patterns, a place of avoidance rather than confrontation. Each day was a battle against the ghosts of his choice to step outside the corporate shadows and into a realm of uncertainty. The thought nagged at him: how could he advocate for a dialogue of balance when he hesitated to voice his own narrative? After interactions with Sarah, the realization dawned on him that his confrontation was not against the cynical corporate structures but against the residual self-doubt that still loomed large. He needed to ground his ambitions in clarity rather than chaos. Therefore, he devised a strategy: a small gathering with a few trusted former colleagues who embodied an understanding of the corporate landscape. They had shared his aspirations but had gradually retreated to comfort zones, much like he had. That he called the gathering Coffee and Change and sent out invitations with a casual ease that belied the tumult of thoughts within him. Unsure if they would view him as an anomaly or a pioneer, he was caught between a longing for validation and a need to assert his own journey. It was one thing to seek understanding from Sarah, who had stepped away from the corporate world herself, but quite another to engage those still entrenched in it. On the day of the meeting, Jack arrived early at a local cafe, a space that felt energetic yet welcoming. As he waited, his heart beat steadily, reminding him that he was choosing to stand firm in his convictions. The small group began to arrive, each familiar face evoking memories ranging from shared victories to the fatigue of endless hours in meetings. They exchanged pleasantries, but he could sense a collective curiosity underpinning their smiles. They were there to see which Jack had emerged from the shadows. Once seated, the energy of the room shifted. It was a palpable blend of nostalgia and tension. He cleared his throat. "Thanks for being here, everyone. I know we all have jobs that demand our attention, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk." Their initial exchanges were cautiously supportive, reminiscing about the challenges they had each faced in their corporate roles. But Jack's agenda lay deeper, more specific. "I've been working on an idea," he began, heart racing yet voice steady. "A consultancy that prioritizes true work-life balance, particularly for parents. I believe these narratives need to be central, not just alternatives for a few." The room quieted as they processed his words. Jack chose honesty, bearing his struggles transitioning from employee to advocate. "I've realized that embracing vulnerability is a strength. It's time we acknowledge not just the metrics of success but the people behind them." Skeptical glances flickered. One of his colleagues, Kelly, a determined leader known for her sharp insights, leaned forward. "But Jack, it sounds like you're betting on a dream. Corporations aren't eager to redefine success, they see it as increasing productivity and profit margins. How can we shift that?" A mix of doubt and encouragement swirled around the table. Faced with the harsh reality of corporate inertia, Jack realized he needed to present a framework of vision that didn't just wear the mask of idealism but was rooted in practicality. "I've been gathering data. Research shows that happier employees are more productive. There's a financial argument to be made, we have to frame it that way." He could feel momentum building as he outlined his ideas on shifting corporate culture from within, drawing on their collective experiences as examples of where dialogue had sparked previous changes. One by one, challenges arose, but they also came with thoughts of shared aspirations, rekindled dreams of making workplaces human again. As the hours passed, Jack felt the air crackle with possibility rather than resistance. They were not merely spectators in his quest, they were slowly rearranging themselves into allies. However, just as his confidence began to solidify, a message pinged on his phone, an email notification from the corporate entity he once identified with, peppered with requests for his return that felt taunting. A surge of turmoil rushed through him, exacerbating the tension already building in the room. Could he embrace this newfound solidarity when faced with the very system he was attempting to challenge? As silence fell over the group, Jack stared at the screen, heart pounding, realization washing over him. The moment of truth approached, not just with his former allies, but within himself. Could he reject the call of familiarity to ignite a revolution? He took a deep breath, ready to either cling to his past or embrace a radical new path. The choice was his to make, but doubts lingered like shadows in the back of his mind. How would he choose between safety and audacity? The meeting's energy shifted, anticipation hanging in the air, reflecting the deep internal conflict breaching the surface. Would he take the leap into the unknown, or retreat into the undeniable security of his old life? Jack stood at the precipice of a life-altering decision. The conversations that had swirled around him were now a resonant echo of the dreams he thought he had lost. The room hummed with a mix of skepticism and budding support, each face representing part of his past and a potential ally for his future. He felt the weight of the email from his former corporate life pressing against his chest. It was a reminder that the world he strove to leave behind was still reaching out, but this time, he saw it with clarity against the backdrop of what he could create. "Success isn't solely defined by numbers," he asserted, his voice steady even as his heart raced. "Every day, we all juggle the demands of work and family. It's time we acknowledge that these challenges are not weaknesses, they're realities that shape our lives." He shared his vision for a consultancy, one aimed not just at easing paths for corporate employees but at transforming the very fabric of workplace culture into one that prioritized well-being alongside productivity. The nods from around the table became embers of encouragement, fueling his confidence, pushing away the shadows of doubt. Kelly's voice cut through the lingering tension. "What does this really look like, Jack? Can you share specifics?" In that moment, armed with energy and focus, Jack articulated the framework he had envisioned. Imagine workshops that center on dialogue, allowing parents to share their struggles and solutions in a safe space. We can implement strategies that provide measurable outcomes for companies while fostering nurturing environments for their employees. As he painted the picture, he felt an undeniable momentum shift. No longer was he the hesitant figure contemplating a leap into the void, but an emerging leader rallying others around a shared vision. Responses began to flourish, brainstorming ideas, voicing concerns, and ultimately sharing stories of their own experiences with the grind of corporate demands. Jack felt a sense of accomplishment mounting. This was growth. No longer just a reflection of his fears, the meeting became a powerful showcase of his newfound clarity. Eventually, the conversation brought forth a consensus on the need for a collective meeting. They recognized the potential impact of forming a coalition for change, one that could echo through the halls of their respective corporations. Despite the emergence of a typically linear proposal format, Jack acknowledged that it had morphed into something much more profound, a movement that emphasized humanity in the workplace. In the subsequent weeks, Jack felt the shift deep within himself materialize into tangible actions. Together with his colleagues, he organized informal meetups, gathering parents from their respective companies to facilitate open discussions about their struggles. Every session transformed his view of competence. It was less about projecting authority and more about fostering connection and understanding. Buoyed by every heartfelt conversation, he expanded into creating materials for corporate leaders, tips and strategies to frame these dialogues as integral to improving workplace morale and productivity. The gravity of his past choices faded, replaced by the concrete achievement of a burgeoning legacy of authenticity and balance. Recognition blossomed unexpectedly when one of the companies embraced his modules, leading to a pilot program aimed at encouraging work-life balance policies. It was a breakthrough that sent waves through the industry. It validated his vision, empowering Jack with a solid confidence that had eluded him for years. "Dad, you're famous." Emma laughed one evening as she scanned an article featuring Jack's consultancy on the impact of prioritizing family-friendly policies in the workplace. Her innocent pride filled every corner of his heart, blending with a profound sense of achievement that came from redefining success on his own terms. Jack's path was illuminated now, not just a father trying to navigate loss, but a pioneer crafting a new narrative for working parents. Everywhere, with each new project, Jack realized he had effectively closed the chapter that dealt firmly with old grudges and apprehension. Instead, he had drafted a fresh beginning, a legacy not just of personal achievement, but of collective transformation. In declaring his triumph, he felt a deeper sense of fulfillment that resonated with every crowd he engaged, revealing how nurturing ambition alongside his role as a father could yield exponential growth. Now, as he stood shoulder to shoulder with peers, feeling their commitment to the same cause, he understood that true success wasn't defined by hardline metrics. It was about establishing a more humane narrative in the corporate world, creating environments where families could flourish. This was more than a step forward, it was an invitation to change how people perceived their worth, blending ambition with authenticity. As he took their hands in solidarity, Jack celebrated not just what he had achieved but who he had become, a man who turned the rubble of grief into a resilient framework for joy and success. The journey he had embarked on ultimately came to a satisfying, fulfilling conclusion, one that resonated beyond personal growth. Jack had conquered the insecurities that once tethered him. He stood proud amid the collective energy of a shared aspiration, showcasing bold determination and genuine connection as the driving forces behind true success. It was now time for his audience to join in this transformation. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You have the power to make a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. I want to hear from you, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting our journey together.